Yeah. Better days, I pray for better days. Working hard cause I want extra pay. Talk to them seeds, but you must demonstrate. Cause it's your ways that they gon' imitate. Non-violent. Sometimes I wish I would've went to college. Frown proudly. Cause where I'm from, they hate you when you smiling. Your faith should be your gun. You can't leave home without it. The children being grown cause all the parents acting childish. You show them your reality, I bet they doubt it. You tell them all about your dreams, that's when they out it. Your own blood. Ain't no family no more. They do you badly for show. You try to patch up your soul, Lord knows you on a mission to show him you so submissive. The prayer said in silence, you know the devil can hear him, pay attention. Know the war's within, how much time do you spend? Try to balance your zen, then again, losses is lessons. You tell me you trying to win, we know about saving money. You tell me you trying to spend that blood on it. Sweat, tears, you put that love on it. Your best years was just a dumb moment. You tired of going hungry, can't deal with fake making your life lonely. Your lack of faith that left your soul boning. But you gon' work and you gon' strive, do what it takes to survive. What is truth, what is a lie? You know that war's inside. Some get draped into the fake, they don't know what to decide. Wrong choice, meet your demise, keep that between you and I. You realize, some people you gon' let go, you visualize. The things you need to feed your soul is on the rise. They not gon' wanna let you go, but it's alright. It's cool to bury what's gon' grow. Went from wrong to the right and to the dark to the light. It was a hell of a fight. You give it all your might. Gotta hold on tight and you stay strong and precise. You fight the war that's inside, cause it might change your life. From wrong to the right and to the dark from the light. It was a hell of a fight. You give it all your might. You just hold on tight and you stay strong and precise. You fight the war that's inside, cause it might change your life. I ain't the person that I used to be. So what I do today ain't things that you used to see. Stay the same, no, things change usually. Some folk I may know might get reintroduced to me. Yeah, I ain't the person that I used to be. So what I do today ain't things that you used to see. Stay the same, no, things change usually. Some folk I may know might get reintroduced to me.
Yeah. Don't be stressing on the dumb shit, cause God is gonna make a way. Just keep going and keep your faith, so you can win this race. This race called life, yeah, yeah. This race called life. This race called life, yeah, yeah. Race called life. Yeah, 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 yeah. I'm grinding 'cause I know that I'm gon' get it. I just gotta have vision, keep faith and be humble. Have some patience with it. I've been A1 since day one, been always on my job. I never been a fake, never had to steal and rob. Cause I do good business, I'm too good with it. And even though I'm on this road, I'm still daddy to my children. You know I do good with them, and don't like being missing. But I hate when my bills are thicker and my pockets get thinner. But I can't stress up on the dumb shit, cause God is gonna make a way. I keep going and keep my faith and my pace, so I can win this race. Win this race called life. This race called life. I'm just trying to win this race called life. This race called life. This race called life, yeah. Race called life. I'm just trying to win this race called life, yeah, yeah, yeah. I keep on running in this race called life, yeah.
Peace, peace. We are in here. Rise and shine. Y'all already know what we doing. Hope everybody's having a beautiful morning. Hope that you woke up in a state of gratitude, giving thanks for all that you have and the day to come. Um, yes, yes. Rise and shine. You already know what I say. Welcome back to the Coliseum of Arguments. This is where ideas don't get a pass, they get put on trial. This morning, we're doing something special. We're breaking down a lecture from one of hip hop's most powerful and controversial intellectual voices, KRS-One, the techer himself, the teacher himself. I was going to say high tech raps back in the day. That's what they used to call them. Let me add this.
Our lesson here is somehow able to.
We're not ready to jump into that yet. Where was I at? Most people know KRS-One as a legendary MC from Boogie Down Productions, the man who gave us classics like Sound of the Police, My Philosophy, and You Must Learn. But what a lot of people don't understand is that KRS-One has spent decades positioning himself not just as a rapper, but as a philosopher, cultural theorist, and spiritual teacher. He founded what he calls the Temple of Hip Hop, where he argues that hip hop isn't just entertainment, it's a way of life, a code of ethics, a system of knowledge. He talks about metaphysics, African spirituality, Black consciousness, government power, religion, and identity, often in ways that challenge both the mainstream and the so-called woke crowd, I guess, whatever you want to call them. The conscious community, you know what I'm saying? Some people see him as a genius, some see him as controversial, some say he's dropping hidden knowledge, others say he's mixing truth with dangerous ideas. And that's exactly why we're watching this today. Tonight, this morning, we're not here to glaze him, we're not here to cancel him, we're here to analyze him. We're going to listen to KRS-One in his own words, break down the philosophy behind what he's saying, and tested in the Coliseum of Arguments, where no idea is above criticism and no truth is afraid of questions. Without further ado, let's get in and see what KRS-One talking about.
We point our lesson here today to the realm of philosophy. And what is philosophy is going to be our first question. I put this picture up here because, you know, they say a picture speaks 1,000 words. But this is a famous picture. It's a famous drawing that philosophers, when you're first putting your foot on the path of philosophy, these are some of the drawings that are shown, because this is the point to philosophy in and of itself. You'll notice that the gentleman is within a reality, but then he is somehow able to poke his head out of what we call physical reality and see an entirely different reality. Something dealing with the universe, other planets, and so on. This is an ancient technique that you could be on Earth and somehow figure out how to get to the universe from where you stand. Now, a lot of this was done with medicinal herbs and plants. That's why you see this down here. These represent, like, these are mushrooms. And these represent medicinal plants. Same thing with the rainbow. All of this represents medicinal enlightenment. You know, those that take mushrooms, maybe peyote, ayahuasca, even back in the days, LSD. Those who take hallucinogenics is what they're called, usually have this kind of experience. This is a drawing. But the philosopher tries to achieve this experience without an artificial means of doing so. You can always sip something, drink something, smoke something, and achieve this right here. But the object of philosophy is for you to achieve this level of mind, being able to peer into the deeper parts of reality without drugs, without medicinal plants, without it altering your physical body. You're supposed to be able to do this through knowledge in and of itself. Here's another part of that as well. A different picture, but the same concept. You'll notice that this theme, when you are studying philosophy, you'll see this theme a lot. And notice the reality in which we're in. There's the regular reality, sun, stars, and a tree. But he's peering out into another reality. And this is the point. Can you move your mind outside of the material world and into a world of possibility, imagination, but based on truth? The intangibles, not the material world, but the intangibles like love, peace, forgiveness, mercy. You can't touch these things, but we know they exist. We feel them. We communicate with these forces in other ways. When you're feeling stuff, you're on this particular path. This could be called the emotions, and this could be called the intellect. You know, to peer deeper into reality is what these pictures are showing. So now we come to our first question. What is philosophy? And I should have had a piece on here that said, and how does it relate to hip hop? But that's a given in this particular course. All of this is related to hip hop, all of it. What is philosophy? First, philo is the word we need to look at. Philo means love. Phi equals or is wisdom. Philosophy. Philo, love, Sophie, wisdom. Now these are Greek terms. Philo, Greek term. Sophie, Greek term. And what we deal with is love, wisdom. Like, what is it? Love, wisdom, okay? Love of wisdom, it's also philosophy. Lover of wisdom, also philosophy. As a matter of fact, lover of wisdom would be called the philosopher. Here's the compact edition of the Oxford English Dictionary. You know, we always pull that up in our lessons because we go right to the original definitions with the etymology so that we clearly understand what's going on. Here we are, philosophy. Right here, definition 1. In the original and widest sense, the love, study, and pursuit of wisdom. We just saw that. Or of knowledge of things and their causes. The fee is love, a love or desire of wisdom. But philosophy is a love or desire of wisdom. Or otherwise, it is a profession, study, and exercise of that wisdom. And notice, look how he's spelling wisdom, which is the knowledge of divine and human, or here it says humane, things. Now, we always play games with this word here, divine, okay? Because we're always hyping it. When we think of the word divine, we think of what Hollywood's interpretation of divine is. We're not looking literally at divine. Like, imagine in the definition of philosophy, divine is part of its definition. Humane or human is part of its definition. We usually exaggerate these words: God, evil, good, bad. We exaggerate these words. We use these words culturally. But philosophy, the reason why it clears your mind is because it deals with words literally. This would not be in the definition if divine was not a real thing. The Oxford English Dictionary is not dealing with fantasy. It's a dictionary. It has to document fact of language. So what we have to understand as hip hoppers, in a philosophical sense, is that we are divine. Divinity is a real thing to achieve, and it feels good when you do. But divinity is a real thing to achieve. And that's why we bring this up at the top of philosophy. We're dealing with knowledge of the divine here. And the way you get to that knowledge of divinity is not by adding more knowledge onto yourself, but by stripping away useless knowledge until all that is left is your true self. It's a different kind of learning. True philosophy is about unlearning. You know, you've been taught so much nonsense. We all have been exposed to such propaganda. Philosophy, as with the original definition, seeks to know what's real, what's true, what's the actual cause of this. Is this a fact or is this fantasy? Well, we bring up the definition and we want you to see this right up at the top. What is philosophy? Love of wisdom. What is philosophy? Knowledge of divine and humane things, human things. The wise dome, the home of wise. Okay, this is the relation of philosophy. You know, and I'm emphasizing this because people have all kinds of expectations about philosophy as well. We hype that word up too to mean all kinds of other things that it doesn't really mean. That's why I'm spending this time on it right at the beginning. Philosophy, love, wisdom, lover of wisdom, seeker, desirer of wisdom. You'll notice that this is not a study, this is a character. Let's go forward. Philosophy definition 2, that more advanced knowledge or study to which in the medieval universities the 7 liberal arts were recognized as introductory. This was the introductory course, was philosophy, and here's how they did you. It included the 3 branches of natural, moral, and metaphysical philosophy, commonly called the 3 philosophies, hence the degree of Doctor of Philosophy. So we're going to focus on these 3. That's why I bring this up. I'm going to bring a few more in, like psychology, theology is also part of philosophy. But we're dealing straight, we're going to start with the ABCs first. And the ABCs of philosophy is natural, moral, and metaphysical philosophy. This is natural science, this is science, morality, ethics, and metaphysics. Let's go forward. Here's natural philosophy, the 3rd definition of philosophy, the knowledge of, not the knowledge or study of nature, or of natural objects and phenomena. Natural knowledge, now usually called science. Because at one time, to be a philosopher or a philosophy itself encompassed religion and science at the same time. In fact, it encompassed all of the sciences and all of that which was spiritual. Because ancient people used to teach like that. There was no separation between science and religion in the original sense. In the original sense, all of these were one thing. You could not know science without knowing God. You could not know God without knowing science. In fact, God and science were the same things. God is just the flip side of science. Or should I say, the spirit and spiritual was just the flip side of the natural. So we study science to know God and study God to know science. Or should I say, we study spirit to know science and study science to know spirit. So here's science. We just saw that. I just wanted to pull up science real quick so you can take a look at its definition. What is science? The state or fact of knowing. Knowledge or cognizance of something specified or implied. Also, with a wider reference, knowledge, more or less extensive, as a personal attribute. Okay, knowledge as a personal attribute. I want you to see this because what we're going to get into is the fact that when you're dealing with philosophy and you're dealing with wisdom, you're not really dealing with a study, you're dealing with an attitude. You're dealing with a character. You're dealing with a way to be. A person are not only theological in the rendering of scholastic terms, see, quote, and occasion philosophy in the sense of knowledge, as opposed to belief or opinion. That's the piece right there. What is philosophy? Knowledge, as opposed to belief or opinion. This is why we say the Temple of Hip Hop is not necessarily a religious organization. And I say necessarily because your culture is your religion, and your religion is your culture. But as you can see, we are philosophers first.
That's deep, and that's something that a lot of people don't get, that these religions are just, and shout out Uncle West on this, he uses this phrase a lot, cultural containers for a time period. So they teach you how to live, how to be the person to aspire. They even give you a model of someone you should aspire to be like. Everything from the laws of how you treat people to what to eat, when to eat, how to treat your mate, how to court your mate, all of that. How to dress. I don't know if I'm saying the same things over and over, but yeah, all of that culture comes through religion. And that's why when colonization happened, it erased a lot of the other cultures, because that's what it's there to do. So the best way to fight an oppressive culture is to embrace your own. Shout out Krs-One for dropping that gem right there.
We don't need to find the difference and distinction between these two. When you really deal with philosophy in its original sense, what are we dealing with? Knowledge. We want to know what is real, not belief or opinion. This is not faith. This is knowledge. Let's go forward. Here we have, well, let me just bring it up. This is the full page, of course. I'm blowing you up right here. We're reading this here. Contrasted or coupled with conscience. How you feel, your sense of right and wrong. Conscience, emphasizing the distinction to be drawn between theoretical perception of a truth and moral conviction. This is, I'm not going to get into this, but I want you to just pay attention to this real quick, because this is one of the Western problems in philosophy. Eastern philosophers don't have this problem, but Western philosophers have this problem. Distinction to be drawn between theoretical perception of a truth and moral conviction. The Western philosophers always had a problem with their morals versus their perception of truth. And that's because you're dealing with a colonial culture. I don't want to have to bring the slave trade and the invasions and colonialism and imperialism and all of that into this conversation. You could study that on your own time. But imperialism, colonialism, invasion, robbery, all of that makes this problem where you have a theoretical perception of a truth. I know I'm not supposed to steal, but you did. So now you got now your moral convictions are messed up because you know you're not supposed to be in this country, but you're here. And you still want to be a philosopher. You still want to say I'm studying truth. You still want to say I'm a lover of wisdom while you're robbing, raping, kidnapping, and enslaving people. That's why the West has a problem. And this is why we have to look at this problem as hip-hoppers. We can't adopt imperialism and colonialism and call it philosophy. Philosophy is about knowledge acquired by study, acquaintance with or mastery of any department of learning, also of a person's various kinds of knowledge. This is a mastery of any department of learning. This is why hip-hop is a philosophy. And this is why I hold myself out as a hip-hop philosopher, because I've mastered my department of study. My department of study is hip-hop and its culture. I've mastered my study. I can be called a philosopher. Why? Because I've mastered my department of learning, which is hip-hop. Now, when you master your department of learning, you too will be a hip-hop philosopher. But to be a hip-hop philosopher, words like knowledge, mastery, okay, science, perception, truth, moral conviction, conscience. These are the words now we're going to focus in on. These are the words that clear out the evil, clear out the lie, clear out the confusion. These are the words we're focusing on. Trained, I'm down here, be here. Trained skill. What is your philosophy? Your trained skill. What you do. Not just talk. Your skill. MCing is a philosophy. DJing is a philosophy. Breaking is not just dance, it's a philosophy. Three, a particular branch of knowledge or study, a recognized department of learning. Read it again. A particular branch of knowledge, hip-hop, or study, hip-hop, a recognized department of learning, hip-hop. Hip-hop's culture is a recognized department of learning. Universities are studying it right now. I am called constantly to speak on hip-hop, to teach it at university level. Recognized, that's the word. We went over this maybe 2 weeks ago when we was talking about hip-hop and its cultural, its legal authority as a culture. And I was saying that you have to be recognized, at least in a Western perspective, you have to be recognized. So here they're saying, a recognized department of learning is a philosophy. In a more restricted sense, a branch of study which is concerned either with a connected body of demonstrated truths or with observed facts systematically classified.
He on this philosophy stuff hard. Is he trying to prove it to us or himself? I'm confused. I'm gonna let it rock though. Let me see where he going with it. We get it, KRS-One. The study of hip hop is a philosophy. You got it. Nobody's trying to take your nobody's trying to snatch your credentials from you, brother. I hope this whole presentation isn't to prove this point. Let's get into it.
Classified or more or less colligated by being brought under general laws and which includes trustworthy methods for the discovery of new truth within its own domain. This is hip-hop. Knowing what is permitted and knowing what is forbidden is right. Knowledge of knowing what's wrong, what is permitted, should say, and what is forbidden. This is the beginning of what is right. 2, notice the cross still there. That which is proper for or incumbent upon one to do, one's duty. But it's obsolete now. They don't use that. Look how far back it goes to 897. Okay, here's year 1000. Here's year 1225. Okay, what is it? 2. Okay, that which is proper for or incumbent on one to do, one's duty. That's right. If you ever want to know, how do I get right? What's your duty? What are you supposed to do? What are you supposed to be doing? What were you born to do? What are you charged to do? That's your duty. That which is proper for or incumbent on one to do, one's duty. Now, what if your duty is to enslave young men and women and turn them into work dogs? That would be right if it's your duty. This is why the argument of morality is so crazy, because again, one man's devil is another man's angel. So who's to say what right and wrong is? And this is the struggle of Western philosophy, because we could say right away, we know what right is. Right is leave me alone. Right is you're not robbing me. Right is love. Right is friendship. We know what right is. But in a Western situation where you have imperialists and colonists, and out of that society, they form their philosophy, then the questions become twisted. And as a philosopher seeking truth, you got to know the difference between that colonial thought influencing philosophy and philosophy itself. In other words, you have to apply philosophy to philosophy.
That's deep. Let me drop a bomb on that one.
Number 3, that which is constant with equity or the light of nature, that which is morally just or due. So here's wisdom.
Let me pause that because I like how he did that. I like how he made the distinction between Western philosophy and philosophy itself, and colonial thought, i.e., Western philosophy influencing true philosophy, uh, and putting a mask on it and disguising itself as, you know, being what it is. Like, no, that's not right. And then I like how he led into that with the definition of right. You got to know what you're standing on. You standing on principle or not. Let's get into it.
And what's interesting within the definition of wisdom is wizard, witchcraft. Okay, this is in the etymology of wisdom. Okay, here's wisdom. Okay, and we're gonna get back to those in a minute. I'm gonna run through this. Wisdom. Here's all it is. Da 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 da. Okay, now come on down here. Matter of fact, well, let me read this piece first, and then I'll flip it over. Here, okay, wise and dome. The quality or character of being wise. It didn't say the study. It said the quality or character of being wise. What is wisdom? Wisdom is the character of being wise. So in other words, the person who is being wise is actually being wisdom. 1, what is wisdom? Capacity of judging rightly in matters relating to life and conduct. Soundness of judgment in the choice of means and ends. Sometimes less strictly, sound sense. Especially in practical affairs. The opposite to folly. Stupidity. When you turn on the TV and you see like rappers acting unwise.
Let me pause that because in 2026, well, shoot, we could say from like 2010 to now, like it's been a lot of self-snitching going on. You know, a lot of unwise choices from the rappers that we see in mainstream media.
And keep in mind, this is surface, okay? So,
and I guess self-snitching would be the second layer of bad choices that most of them make. The first layer will be conducting in the activity itself. So let me go ahead and start with that.
Some of you may be listening to me right now and say, I learned this in college. And the reason I bring this up is because the executives at these corporations, they know this. They know this. They know what is good and what is evil. They know what is unwise. So they allow us to act this way.
Yes.
While they take advantage of wisdom, unity, good. Hand us bad, evil, telling us, encouraging us to be evil.
Man, that just make me think about, you know, all the game that Kanye West was dropping about the music business, the music execs, you know, how the small hats is running things and how they don't live like this. They wouldn't let their kids talk like this. They wouldn't let their kids put out music like this. But they go and facilitate Black folks doing it every day, committing genocide on the whole album. You feel me? These rappers that killed 128 people by the end of this dang CD. You feel what I'm saying? Like, it's crazy. And man, that's just what's going on in the minds. This is what you got to recognize. Your brain is just like a computer. This is what the computers were modeled after. So the music, the entertainment, the movies, even your interactions with everyday people, this is just software you download. It's programming, so to speak. Uh, and I'm gonna let him go ahead and cook, man. Most of y'all should already know this. I don't know what my age demographic is this morning. I'm assuming I'm not talking to a group of 17-year-olds, so most of y'all should like already be past this and in a stage of wisdom. But for those who aren't, recognize that this stuff does affect you. And listening to it over a period of time, especially if drug induced, this stuff seeps into your consciousness and becomes part of who you are. So with that being said, I'll let him finish.
To step outside of what our ancestors already put on us, to step outside of our hip hop culture, to step outside of what we know is good. They're encouraging us and encouraging our young people to act like this, to act unwise. And when you act unwise, you can't make the right choices. What is wisdom? Making the right choices. What is wisdom? Soundness of judgment in the choice of means and ends. Where you know, if I do this, I'm going to be hurt. Let's not do it. If I do this, I'm going to be right. I'm going to be good. Let's do it. Can you make the right choices? This is wisdom. This is what wisdom is. It's not about some, I'm wise because, I don't know what people think wise is. You know, I'm wise because I'm experienced. No, that's not what wisdom is. Wisdom is all about making the right decisions. And if you're not wise, you can't make the right decisions. Or if you don't make the right decisions, you're not being wise. Here's wise. Wise. Okay? This is wise. Here's
Sounds
the definition.
simple, don't it?
Having or exercising sound judgment or discernment, capable of judging truly concerning what is right or fitting and disposed to act accordingly. Okay, I'm going to read that one again. Having the ability to perceive and adopt the best means for accomplishing an end, characterized by good sense and prudence, the opposite to foolish. The opposite to foolish. So, when our children are being portrayed on television every day, opposite to making the right decision, they're making us look like fools. They're making us foolish. They're making hip-hop look foolish. Like as if hip-hop can't make the right choices. We'd rather be hoes and whores than queens and princesses. We'd rather...
Exactly what I was just saying. It's crazy, this. I don't know. The Small Hats did a hell of a job when they deteriorated hip hop with this thug culture and this whole culture, etc. Shit, wow, man.
to be criminals and gangsters rather than teachers and philosophers. And they don't want you to hear the teacher. They don't want you to hear the philosopher because the philosopher and the teacher don't make money for them. Make money for ourselves, but not for them. What makes money for them is young black, Latino, and what really just youth acting foolish. And that's what we see. People with stacks of money to their ear. Okay, I know it's entertainment, but it's foolish. If you really just want to look at what it is in truth, it's foolish. They're not making the right decision. They're not making the right decision for hip hop, and they're not making the right decision for themselves. They're being foolish. This is not a criticism. This is not me dissing somebody's style or saying I'm all this and they ain't nothing. Nope. Maintain your maturity. We're dealing with real knowledge here. We're dealing with real knowledge, and you gotta know what is right and what is wrong. You gotta know what is wise and what is foolish. Now I want to bring you back over here real quick. Having or exercising sound judgment or discernment capable of judging truly concerning what is right or fitting, and here's the big piece, and disposed to act, act accordingly. Okay? You know what's right, you know what's fitting, and you are disposed. I know it's right, so I got to act accordingly. Not just know it, but it is wise to act on what you know is right. That's wise. Having the ability to perceive and adopt the best means for accomplishing an end. That's what it means to be wise. At the bottom it says, see wise man. Okay, this is a blow up of it real quick. We just saw this. We just read through all of this. I'm bringing you here now. See wise man. Matter of fact, let me leave this up for those that want to get that definition of wisdom. Take a shot at the screen. Okay, wise man, formerly often as one word or with hyphen, confers a surname Wiseman. 1. A man who is wise. A man of good judgment or discernment. A discreet or prudent man. Okay, the wise man is this is what the wise man is. A man who is wise, a man of good judgment or discernment, a discreet or prudent man, often opposed to fool. Okay? So, do you know what wise is? And do you know what a fool is? You don't want to be a fool. You don't want to walk around foolish. You want to walk around wise, able to discern, able to make the right decision at the right time, the best way. How are we going to get to where we going? This is the best way to do it. The ability to do that is called wisdom. Here's wise woman. For the general sense, a woman who is wise. See wise one, we saw that. 1, a woman skilled in magic or hidden art. See how they do women right there? Look at that, I'm gonna bring you back, okay? The wise man is a man who is wise. So why isn't a wise woman a woman who is wise? A man of good judgment or discernment. So it will be a woman of good judgment and discernment. A woman who is discreet or prudent. A woman who is opposed to, she's opposite of a fool. Nope, that's not what it is. Wise woman is a specific. A woman skilled in magic or hidden arts. A female magician, soothsayer, etc. A witch. Sorceress. Especially a harmless or beneficent one who deals in charms against disease, misfortune, or malignant witchcraft, or bad witchcraft, evil witchcraft. Okay, that's what they're trying to tell you right here. Now, I told you before, why is the woman? You see, let me go back a little bit here. Okay, you see, wise man. Okay, wise man is a man who is wise. So a wise woman would be the same thing. Wise man is a man of good judgment or discernment, a discreet or prudent man. So that would be the woman as well. But as we get to the definition of wise woman, we see all this. A woman skilled in magic or hidden arts, a female magician, soothsayer, a witch. Now, in our generation, we say, oh, a witch. You immediately think of, you start getting some negative thought in your mind. You start thinking, a witch, a sorceress. But they're telling you, the original wise woman, who was called a witch and a sorcerer, she was curing disease. She was getting you out of misfortune. She was taking that evil witchcraft off you. That was the wise woman. And keep in mind that the wise woman, she says here, look at the etymology from 1552, wise woman that telleth fortune. The first wise women were Africans. The first wise women were the so-called slaves or captives that were brought into Europe, brought into England. And they brought their charms with them. They brought their magic with them. And a lot of Europeans benefited. Kings, queens. Imagine being able to tell the future, and the king knows that. These women had power. This is what the Kandake became. in England and Europe. The Kandake was the queen mother of Africa. And she wasn't just a military or political figure. She was a soothsayer, a magician. She was a prophetess. She was a sorceress. She was able to do things outside of nature. She was above nature. She was above man or human. She was outside of that. And so check out the wise woman. This is the original wise woman. Okay, here she is making something. And this picture is so great because it's showing you how ancient Africa used to do it. This is hip hop. This is where our culture comes from, ancient Africa. And these people, notice women here, African women, okay, bare-breasted women. Nobody looking at them with any lust or anything. This was just our culture. You know, breasts were no big deal. But you get here to the United States, and all of a sudden, this looks like a sexual thing to your mind. And I'm not saying it does, I'm just saying, in a general sense, most people, immature, can't really look at the original African philosophers because they walked around naked, most of them. They didn't need nothing. They had everything and knew everything and was able to make the right choices in a split second. She's crunching down herbs and making something for you to see the future. Okay? She making something to heal. Okay? Take a look. Look at the kids around. Look at all the mothers standing around Queen Mother. That's the Kandake. That's Queen Mother. In English and European culture, she's called the wise woman now. A witch, a sorcerer. This is Africa. We're going deeper into philosophy. Why am I talking about this? Because these are the first philosophers. These are the first philosophers. They don't look like philosophers, do they? But the very first philosophers don't come out of Greece. The very first philosophers come out of Africa. The people that built this are the first philosophers. And even before them, because this took many, many thousands of years to evolve to. So you got to consider, they tell us all the time, Greek philosophy, Greek philosophy, Greek philosophy. But if you do philosophy on philosophy, you find that Greek is the appearance. The original cause is Africa. And here we have our pyramids. These are African structures, don't get it twisted. Black African people made those structures. These are the first philosophers. But then here comes Greece with a copy. I put this specifically. See how they see the pyramid? They copy it. Okay? Here comes Greece. The first philosophers are Africans who can make wise decisions. The first philosophers are Africans who were living right. They called them the blameless Ethiopians. Blameless. Then we got this. What? How does he get the whole? This is Africa. Okay? But when Greece comes in as the colonists, as the war machine, they hit the philosophers. Philosophers are not warriors. We know how to fight, but we also know karma. We also know that what we do to others is going to come back to us too. We know to stay calm in all situations. So here comes now the thief. And the thief is invading Africa and copying everything that is African. Everything. This is Pythagoras, or at least an image of Pythagoras. Everything about this dude is stolen from Africa. And I say that respectfully. I'm not dissing. It's the truth. This is an African object. So is the lyre down here. Artwork, this is agriculture. All that's out of Africa. Okay? The very clothes he's wearing, African. This pillar, this is Imhotep back here. Okay? This pyramid, what is called the Pythagorean Pythagorean theorem, this here.
He lost me
give you
there.
that.
The pillar is emo
Okay,
type. I'm lost.
Pythagorean theory. Pythagoras is credited with inventing the word philosopher, stating, quote, "No man but only God is wise. Call me rather a philosopher, a lover of wisdom." Now, most people, when they see this, they say, oh, right, he's saying God is wise. But remember that in Pythagoras' time, the gods were black people. There was no God in the sky. The gods were the ancestors of those that built them pyramids. That was the gods. The original gods were a people. You see, you're going to have to wrap your head around that. Because some of us are now walking with the God gene, as Rizza says, the God particle. We're walking around with the God particle on us, regardless of race, because we're all intermarried now. We're all sharing blood now. We're all together. And this is what the ancients wanted. They wanted us, they put their blood into humanity. This is where we get the idea of the Da Vinci Code and the blood of Christ and all of these type of things. These are allegories for the original philosophers, the first gods. The first gods were not some fantasy. They were regular people with knowledge. They were regular people with knowledge beyond the average person. Of sapient, aware of. To have knowledge of, or to be aware of. Okay? That's what it means to be sapient. So we can even say to be sapient is to be hip. Okay? Right here. Aware of, that means to be hip. Pertaining to characteristics of modern man. Homo sapiens. Only in Latin, sapiens, a wise man, a sage. So this idea of a grunting animal, Homo sapiens, we got Neanderthals, Homo habilis, Neanderthalensis, and this Homo sapien, a modern human, still hairy, still kind of ape-like, but this is what they're pushing on us. No, the Homo sapiens were not some ape-like people, and they know that. That's why they put it in these books that you're never going to get, because this is where they hide the knowledge. They know that Homo sapien means wise man. So why are you depicting ancient humans as these animals grunting and growling when you know you're degrading the image of a wise sage? Sapiens. We go to the Oxford Latin Dictionary. Here's sapiens in Latin. The word comes from sapient, the word sapiens. Okay, endowed with a mind, rational, of sound mind, sane. 2, of persons, wise, understanding, having sound judgment. Okay, this is what they want you to think a Homo sapien is. And if you can move your mind past this, you'll see that, okay, let's say that our ancestors look like this. Let's just say. This is true as a true depiction of our ancestors. What makes you think this guy is stupid, grunting, growling, an animal man? No, get out of that. This is a Homo sapien. Look at him as he is. Now, I don't agree with this picture at all, but let's just say this is the truth. Then also adjust your mind to say that this is who's reading the stars. This is who's doing agriculture. This is who built the pyramids. This is who developed speech, art, music, handwriting. This. Let's say this is the image. Fix your mind then to say, nope, that's a Homo sapien. This is wise, sound judgment. This is the dude who's making all the right decisions for humanity to survive. Okay? You didn't hear me. He's making all the right decisions for humanity to survive. Often referred to as subhuman and prehistoric, and often depicted as a half man and half ape characters, These early humans, our ancestors, left physical evidence that they were just as much human and shared the same basic human desires and needs as any human does today. But if they draw him like this, you dehumanize him in your own mind. Because he don't look like a human.
I'm mad he got the hairy shoulders and hairy back.
So you don't give our
how they know where the hair was
any humanity. You say, well, that's just an ape man. He don't know much.
So
but the anthropologists, paleoanthropologists, they got the real definition to themselves. This is a sage. This is the wise man. Okay? In fact, the early human, known to paleoanthropologists as Homo neanderthalensis, or Neanderthal man, is now known to have had a larger brain than that of the so-called modern humans. These so-called subhumans, they still call Neanderthals subhumans, and Neanderthals had bigger brains than humans, okay? Modern, so-called modern humans. These so-called subhumans, or hominins, these are the technical names they give these beings. They trying to make him look like him. This is who they disrespected. These are the original people. This is what original man would have looked like. This is what Homo hip-hopiensis would have looked like. Not this.
Homo hip-hopiensis.
We look just like this. The problem, though, he probably would have had a beard. Maybe not. Who knows? But this is what closer to what we would have looked like. Not no half-ape, nothing. They're trying to disrespect this figure with this image. And your eye got to be open enough to really see it. I call this figure Homo hip-hopiensis. Homo meaning man, hip-hopiensis, our ancient ancestor. And remember, we have an ancient ancestor. We don't come from slavery. That's stupidity. We come from ancient cultures that flow through our blood, and we're expressing that culture through what we call hip-hop today. Here's the female Homo hip-hopiensis.
Yeah, that sounds pseudo right there. We expression our ancient cultures through hip hop today. Not the hip hop that be on the radio when I get in the car. I know that ain't the hip hop he talking about. Maybe the stuff he be doing.
Man, woman, brother, sister, husband, wife, Kandake, queen, mother, king, father. This is the original, and this is what it's really all about. Those who had attained the inner vision and had received mind, or nous. Remember, mind was that inner voice. That's what mind was, that inner voice, the voice that speaks without moving the mouth, the sight that could see with closing these eyes, and you still see your past, your present, your imagination. When you read a book, you hear a voice in your being reading the book, yet your mouth is not moving. This is what is called mind, or what was the original concept of mind, was your inner being. And 3, the creators or sons of light who had become identified with or united with the light, true spiritual consciousness. That's it. You united with the light. How do you get to the light? You have an inner being that's already there. Once you realize that, you now can walk into you're in the light, actually. Going back to the book, I'm opening the book up real quick. We just read this part of it. Let's move over here. Why am I moving over here? Because, like I said to you, philosophy is an attitude. It does not begin with warring civilizations, colonists, imperialists, kidnappers, enslavers. Societies like this don't produce philosophers or philosophy. Only those societies that are at peace with themselves, those societies who have enough to eat, those societies who are so ordered and so right that they have the time to study the stars, the time for weaving and pottery making and food preparation and all this. You have to have time for that. A warring culture has no time for that. That's what Stolen Legacy is bringing up right now. Put your attention right here. It is obvious from a study of the causes and effects of the Peloponnesian Wars, that's some Greek wars, that One, or A, the Greek states were envious of each other, and the desire for power and expansion led to constant aggression and warfare amongst themselves. The condition of constant warfare between the city-states was unfavorable for the production of philosophers. Before passing on to consider my next position, I would like to say that it is an accepted truth that the development of philosophical thought requires an environment which is free from disturbances and worries. The period commonly assigned to Greek philosophy, Thales to Aristotle, 320 to 622 BC, was exactly, 320, to 622 BC, was exactly the opposite to one of peace and tranquility, and therefore it could not be expected to produce philosophy. The obstacles against the origin and development of Greek philosophy were not only the frequent civil wars, which they explained them here, Greeks fighting amongst themselves, and the constant defense against Persian aggression, but also the threat of extermination from the Athenian government itself, its worst enemy. So how can Athena, how can Athens be the birth of philosophy when the Athenian government will kill any philosopher talking anything other than what the Athenian government was talking, and that government was at war with itself, making the environment unsuitable for a philosopher. This is why Greeks did not create philosophy, nor were they the first philosophers, with all due respect. Africans are the first philosophers. Africa is the land of the first philosophers. There are pockets of places in Africa that are so peaceful that the gods can.
Oh, snap. Don't let the FBA hear this. The Mapos go nuts. They hear him talk about Africa is the home of the first philosophers.
Dwell there. That's what we're dealing with. Wisdom is a character, not a study or a pursuit. Those that study wisdom do not become wise, just as those that pursue wisdom never retain it. I'm going to leave that up there for you to ponder that for a minute. It's a deep thought, but it's what philosophy is all about. Those that study wisdom do not become wise, just as those that pursue wisdom never retain it. Wisdom begins as a character that knows right from wrong, real from fake, reality from illusion. Wisdom is the character of the wise. It is a moral skill, not a study. You either have it or you don't. Come on now. As we are learning, the very first wise people are the very first self-aware human beings. These are the communities that would go on to establish the very first centers of learning, the very first colleges and universities in the world, as well as the very first libraries and centers of trade. These are who the Greeks and others are learning from right here. The several degrees of persons in the university, this is what a sophomore is. The several degrees of persons in the university colleges: freshman, sophomores, knowledge, wisdom, knowledge, Sophie, wisdom, knowledge. 2, one or other of the various sciences departments of study. Sophie. Okay, a wise or learned man, a sage. A sage. That's Sophie. Philosophy. Philo is love for this sage. Or philosophy, love for the Sophie, love for the wise or learned man, love for the sage. Sophie, more. The word was often used for Negro. Do you see that? This is the printed word. This is fact. Okay? And hence, the word was often used for Negro, confer, blackamoor. And we get into that as well. When you study Ethiopia and start studying, this word here becomes entrenched, okay? You start seeing it a lot and so on. And it has really different meanings of authority. They try to degrade the word because, you know, they're after the Negro. They got to make the Negro low. They got to make the Negro an animal. They got to subhumanize the Negro. But as you can see, the Negro is the beginning of wisdom and philosophy. Here they go. And I want to show you this picture because this is just a party going on, just people having a good time, okay? And this is more realistic as a picture. I should have had the other one up here when I showed you Greeks in, you know, with muscular bodies and these philosophers. This is what they're imitating. This is who they want to be. The wise black. You could call this a philosopher's party. The originals. It's how they got down. And all of them don't have to be philosophers. Only she does. All of them don't have to be philosophers. Only he does. Because philosophy is a character. It's a character. And not everybody has the character, no matter what race you are. Everybody don't have this character. Moving on, just bringing you up closer to it, you know. But this is the stylized version. So this is the letter for divinity. Now, when you put this figure up, immediately we go, oh, black man monkey, oh, here's the racism. That's how they took your culture. This is a god named Thoth. Some say Thoth. Okay, it's a god. When we were the first philosophers, the word was that this baboon was our first teacher. Okay, now come on now. Kemetic knowledge of the mystery systems of Egypt, of Kemet. This is.
And I don't know why that took me back to the baboon from the Lion King. What's the baboon name from the Lion King, man? Somebody drop it in the chat, man. I can't remember. I'm about to have to watch the Lion King today.
Some of the oldest knowledge that they knew the time when we went from what is called animal or whatever to human, or from man to God. They knew when that happened, and they said the first knowledge who came and brought us writing, who somebody who taught us how to write, was this figure, a baboon. Now this is an image, so it could have been a human that came and taught, but if you're dealing with the first humans, who they're saying the first humans lived more like animals, and it was something about human awareness that made us upright and start living in a symbolic world, start imagining our world and living in a symbolic world. We started making language and art and beauty and looking around. That's this. They're saying in ancient sciences that this dude was taught by this being that is depicted as a baboon. So now they tell you, you know, now the racism comes in. Oh, you don't want to be no monkey. They're talking down to the monkey, talking down to the ape. You know, you don't want to, you an ape. You like, oh, I don't want to be no ape. And they just took your culture because they know that the original baboon was, in our culture, was a god, and a god of knowledge and writing. Here's the full picture with a woman. Look at her hair, locks. These are ancient pictures too, by the way. We didn't just draw these yesterday. This is like 2,000-3,000 years old, these pictures. But I'm showing you the first philosophers. Eye of Horus, okay? The baboon, okay? The priestess, the wise woman, okay? Here's a figure of it. This is a duplicate of something that was actually made 2,000-3,000 years ago. I got this from a museum. Actually, I think it's the British Museum I might have got this out of. But here is Thoth, the baboon, teaching man how to write. So you got to consider, if you're the first human, you could talk to animals because you an animal yourself. So you know the language of animal. You know how to communicate.
Hold up. I mean, is this mythology or is this, you know, 100% fact? You know, it's still up in the air, I believe. But I'm gonna still go ahead and let them cook.
Communicate to animal. Then you gain this human awareness. You gain this God consciousness. And you start knowing right from wrong, up from down, fake from real. You know, you start knowing. And here's where you become wise. So what is interesting here is that this is the first MC as well. These are MCs. These are divine speakers, what is called the Merunecha. These are the writers and speakers of the Merunecha. And they're being guided and inspired by this being called Thoth. And Thoth has more images than just this image right here. Let's read. A baboon is squatting on a small pedestal with his hands sagely laid on its knees. Take a look. Sagely. Those are his hands, little sagely hands over the knees. Okay. Sage. We're going to go back. Homo sapiens, sage. Okay. Laid on his knees. But it would be sacrilege or disrespectful to mistake it for a pet. They say, don't mistake this guy for a pet. Don't mistake, this is not a pet, okay? This monkey is one of the forms of the god, Thoth. The god, back to that word again, Thoth, patron of the scribes. This is made clear by the offering table set at the base of the pedestal and the humble attitude of the scribe seated at his feet. The scribe is reading a papyrus unrolled across his knees and bowing his head as a sign of devotion. I didn't see that here, and I'm just pointing that out to you because you've got to be, don't just read. Read with a critical mind. It says here the scribe is reading a papyrus unrolled across his knees. How could you read a papyrus that's unrolled across his knees? Or maybe unrolled, that it was supposed to be rolled up? I don't know, whatever. Rolled his knees, bowing his head. Let's take a look at this. That's an open scroll, and his head is not bowed. And this information is explaining that picture. This is the card that comes with that picture, comes with that figure, okay? The scribe is reading a papyrus unrolled across his knees and bowing his head as a sign of devotion. The inscription encircling this little group invokes Thoth, master of divine words. Sounds like MC to me. Master of divine words? On behalf of the scribe, whose titles are listed. He is a high official called Nebmerutef. Nebmerutef, a priest, archivist, and royal scribe with the rank of minister. His sovereign, Amenhotep III, I've got this from Germany, now that I see it, Amenhotep III, granted him the very special favor of being portrayed at his side on the walls of his temple at Soleb. So what are we looking at? We're looking at a god influencing man with knowledge, writing, divine speech, basically breaking, MCing, graffiti art, DJing. That's called hip hop. Let's go forward. This is another picture of the same scribe. I want you to see the folded leg. This is the first image that is like this. Look at the hair, look at the image. Okay, look at the style. I'm going to show you this right now. Leg, this guy, high-ranking official of the pharaoh, chief of the double treasure, is seated cross-legged in well-known position of a scribe. So the cross-leg, the meditation position, was the first position of the scribe. That's where we get it from. It's not yoga, it's not Buddha, it's not any of that. It's black Egyptian that came first with the crossed leg and writing on the papyrus. He wears a large wig. In his left hand, he holds a papyrus unrolled over his knees. And I guess that when they say unrolled, it means it's open. Showing the list of funerary offerings. He wears a large wig. Ain't a wig. He wears a large wig which leaves his ears uncovered and a short beltless skirt tied simply at the waist with a knot. The first portrayals of seated scribes go back to the 4th dynasty, around 26 to 2500 BC. At that time, and by the way, Greece didn't even exist then. At that time, they were princes of royal blood. Blood. Do you see it? Blood. Princes of royal blood. But officials gradually like adopted this position. Look at what's just said. At that time, 2,500 years back, okay? At that time, they were princes of royal blood. So they first start out as princes of royal blood. But officials, and what that word is so loaded, of other people gradually adopted this position. The scribe is he who knows how to read and write, who uses divine words, the Egyptian term for hieroglyphs. He is the one who imposes taxes, who receives them, who draws up inventories of everything that exists. In short, he has the most important and best profession. It is also thanks to scribes that Egyptian literature is known. Their patron is Thoth. That's their patron saint, is Thoth. Now, this part here could be from the library, from today's museums writing themselves into history, because these guys were not tax collectors. They're not writing about taxes. That's some stupid, crazy they put in here. They're writing about immortality. They're writing about how to reach the gods. They're writing prayers, what is called the Book of the Dead, or in ancient language, coming forth by day and night. It was changed to the Book of the Dead. But they're writing about prayers. They're writing about that other side, that dimension that you peek in your head out of this dimension and into another one. That's what they're writing about. Here's Thoth, or Thoth. This is from the Vatican. When I was at the Vatican, I took this picture. They have Thoth all. As a matter of fact, the whole Vatican is Egyptian artwork, everything. Everything in the Vatican is going taking you back to Egypt. That's in Egypt. I'm sorry, that's in the Vatican, in Rome. Okay? Take a look at him. Take a look at the Greek. 2,500 years later, like 1,500 years later, this is what they're doing. Then another 1,000 years after that, here's what's happening. The reason we know that this comes after this is because these people invaded them and them, plagiarized them, and they had influenced these people long before these people came and started invading both. This influenced both cultures. They're all trying to imitate the Sophie Moore, the wise black, the Homo sapien. That's what they're trying to imitate. Take a look at her hair. I wanted you to focus real quick on her hair. See the hair? Okay, Asians don't have hair like that, with all due respect. Take a look at the ears. Asians don't do their ears like that, with all due respect. They do now, some do, especially in Thailand and Cambodia, they do their ears like that. But that's original Africa. That's original African ears. She looks Asian, but the style that they are presenting, the posture of the person with the hair and the ears is all African culture. All black African culture. And it's a specific African. We don't know true from false. So we go along with what's being told because we really don't have the knowledge. Here now is some of the pillars that were standing, some of the architecture of the first philosophers. It's not just about words. These philosophers are building stuff. Building. Their philosophy is not a talk. It's an action. It's a character that produces pyramids and mathematical structures that are made without a ruler. They didn't go out there with a ruler and measure. This was a feeling. They felt this into existence. They felt it. just as we close here for today, this is Isis. I'm going to show you the plagiarism. This is Isis, okay, Aset or Ast. The woman and the male child, she's suckling him. Look at her image. Look at the style. Okay? Look at what she's feeding her child from the breast. Suckling her child. Do you see that? This is another image. Same thing of the same woman, but in a Greek style. Suckling the breast. Okay? Here's a little kid, and she's bringing her breast to his mouth. Same thing here. Same image. Okay? Take a look. Now the Roman gets involved. They don't change the image. They use the same image. Baby in arm, breast, feeding the baby. This is one of the rare pictures of the icon of Mary, Mother Mary, who is really Isis. Okay? Who is really Hera. Okay? Mother Mary is one of the rare pictures of her with her breasts out. You never seen a picture of Mother Mary suckling young Jesus with her breasts out. They took that picture out as well. You got to get to the icons to really know about that. Plus, what I like about this picture is that there are medicinal plants behind her. They're trying to tell you something right here with this ancient picture. Okay? But what I want you to see, the original Isis suckling little horrors. Isis. This probably would be called Hera now. Okay, and then from here you get Mary. Same image. Okay, take a look. Here's the breast again. Same image. Okay, take a look. Same. This is now a variation. Now the breasts ain't out. We're coming up now. Okay, this is it. Take a look. Now it's the same. This is Isis and Osiris. Isis, Osiris. Isis, but now we don't even know. Now we're Roman. Now we're gone. The original culture's gone. Okay, and this is what we dealing with now. Okay, this is what we dealing with now. But this is a copy of that. This is what happened to philosophy, and this is why hip hop has re-emerged as the original civilization of the original philosophers. The love, study, and pursuit of wisdom is a character, not just a study. In fact, it is actually the philosophical character that reveals the study. It is the living of the sage's life that reveals wisdom, while the pursuit of wisdom only proves that you do not possess it, or that it is foreign to you. The pursuit of something is not the something that is being pursued, just as the love of something is not the something being loved. Philo and Sophie is what they, Greeks, saw as the character of enlightened, sunburnt beings who obviously loved learning. For these ancient black beings, what the Greeks were calling philosophy, or love of wisdom, was more accurately love and wisdom. The balance between the heart and the mind, the emotions and the intellect, reason and intuition. The ancients saw what was called Philo and Sophie as justice, the balance of all things. In Kemet, Egypt, this was called Ma'at. This balance, which was expressed as a certain character, then led to the deification of the sage, which was the ultimate point to the knowing of oneself. It was to achieve union with the mind of the universe and God. This is philosophy. Here's Ma'at, and I will close on this image right here. Look at this black God right here. This is what we're going to have to come to terms with. If you talk about Black Lives Matter, if you're dealing with anything about African American liberation, no matter what your race is, restore us back to who we were. This is the job of hip hop as culture. That those who join in on the culture, you understand that those who are hip hop, no matter what your race is, you are part of the oppressed group. And if you're part of the oppressed group, that means you're being lied to about your culture. And it is up to hip hop to go through every culture, European, African, Asian, Indian, go through each culture and explain the truth about the origins of that culture. We're starting with philosophy because we are philosophers. And the very first human beings, which were the first breakers, the first MCs, the first graffiti writers, the first DJs, beatboxers, fashion people, the first, we have their blood in us. That's why we call it hip hop today. The hip awareness, hopping movement, consciousness, intelligence springing up.
And that was KRS-One cooking. How do y'all feel about that one out there? KRS-One full lecture on philosophy. I think he was cooking on that. He dropped a lot of gems in there. It started off a little slow, but he picked it up. I like the way he landed his plane, shared some insight into some stuff, that I was already hip to, but I like his angle for sure. Um, yeah, man, KRS-One. Doing his thing, man. I wonder what he up to now, man. But yeah, peace, power. This is Coliseum of Arguments. You know my slogan. Treat your smile like your money and never let them steal it. Hope everybody has a beautiful day out there. And remember, you too can shine just as bright as the sun. We out of here. Have a good day.